we're still using these same characters to teach lessons of community and advocacy, allyship, friendship, love, acceptance, all of the words. Welcome to another episode of Out Loud and Laughing. Get ready. It's Bryan and Jon, two gay cousins having big talks and even bigger laughs. Join us. Let's see what they're up to. It's Out Loud and Laughing.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Out Loud and Laughing. I'm Bryan.
Hi, I'm Jon. I always talk over you. Do our listeners notice that?
I don't know, but it's like marriage. It's fine.
I'm really trying.
Same. I'm coming to you live from London.
Oh, good morning. Good night.
Yeah. What time is it?
Time is it? Nobody knows.
I flew here for work this week, so it's been actually like it's been busy with work, but it's been a nice break.
Never long.
You can guess.
Cold.
Rainy. Rainy. Yeah.
Rainy. Oh yeah, London.
Checks all the boxes. But it's nice to be back. For everyone that doesn't know, I lived in London with Adam for 2 years, 2016 to 2018. So it's always nice to come back here and see some old friends and catch up. And I don't know, it's been nice, but it's a quick trip, like 2 days, 3 days. So not very long, but yeah, coming to you live from London. So it's funny, I wanted to talk today because I was these flights are long and I have a lot of like downtimes, like think through like, I don't know, obviously like our pod, but life and different things that kind of resonate with me. And for some reason I was like half asleep. So I'm horrible at sleeping on airplanes. Like I sleep like maybe an hour or two. But I'm so nostalgic. I know you are too. And for some reason, the movie that kept popping into my head, that kept popping up with like memories, was Follow That Bird.
OMG.
Yeah.
Follow
And
That Bird, like Sesame Street, full feature length film, 1980s. Follow That Bird, 1999. When was that?
it was definitely like either their late 80s, early 90s, because I remember you had a VHS tape of it. I didn't own it. I know you did. And so we would just watch it at your house all the time.
Does anybody else remember this movie?
It was like the full feature Sesame Street movie. It was like, and if you haven't watched it, pause, watch the movie, come back to the pod, give you permission. It'll change your life.
We might need to try to source this and provide a link. If it doesn't, yes, we will put it. And if it doesn't, good luck
like
finding
clips. Yes. But for those who didn't watch it, the plot was Big Bird felt like left out, isolated, and I could be getting it wrong. This is how I remember it. Big Bird felt left out.
You're already starting perfectly. Yes.
And it was that, which was an interesting theme because he was a part of Sesame Street and all his friends, but I think he felt isolated because he didn't have any other people that looked like him, or that were of his same kind, a bird, and so he ran away, and he ended up trying to move in with another bird family, and then he got kidnapped into the circus, and so he felt alone. And then everyone in Sesame Street, planes, trains, automobiles, they broke out into groups and they were all trying to find Big Bird to bring him home. So it was a happy story around your community trying to find you and bring you back, while you also felt isolated in that community. So it's just as a kid, it was so fun to see all of our favorite characters do this almost like the original rat race, and compete to try and find Big Bird and bring him home. But as adults now, with you and I talking about this, so I'm just kind of throwing this at you right now. You haven't even had a moment to think about it, but like, wow, how effing powerful is that today?
You're like igniting scenes in my head of Big Bird, I remember like a lot of sadness. I remember a lot of Big Bird looking for belonging. I remember for like the other, looking back now, I can remember there being sort of like sub-story plots happening within each character, like Oscar the Grouch and some of the other puppets. Whereas like they were so focused on themselves that it was almost hard for them to look outside themselves and focus on Big Bird to see that there was even a problem happening. I think this is a really good lesson about Big Bird not saying like, hey, I need something from you guys, and instead he like got into his head, overthought, and decided to escape. I could relate with that. If you've heard some of my podcast stories, I've um I've definitely tried to escape some things. Yeah, that's crazy that that just came up. Do you remember one of the scenes that sort of stands out the most to me is when they dyed Big Bird blue.
They changed him.
They
Yeah,
changed him.
they changed him. And obviously, when we were watching it as a kid, you're like, "Oh, they made him blue because he was singing songs about sadness." But damn, that is powerful shit.
Yeah, and you know what else is coming to mind now? Like, if you think about the different levels of loneliness, like being lonely, like, in your own community, and
Mhm.
then being lonely, like, in a place where you're just starting out for the first time, trying to feel and trying to connect and trying to form that emotional bond. And then, like, feeling lonely when you've sort of, like, exhausted all of your efforts and found yourself in a precarious situation. Now, like, sort of, like, looking back and, like, trying to be like, "Well, shit, I kind of should have been grateful for the community." And then when I sort of like tried to find home and like trusted myself enough, and then sort of like ultimately leading up to like not trusting yourself and like finding yourself in situations where now he's captured and he's dishonoring himself and he's performing for others. And it's like these levels of sadness that like until you like think about it, you're like, shit, like what a story.
Yeah, and, as a kid, we obviously didn't really dig into any of those themes. We
No,
were probably, what, 10, maybe 8 to 10 years old? Um, but it just begs, like, maybe why it resonated so much with you and I, and again, I was thinking about this, like, on the plane for some reason, like, it was all about feeling not included, and damn, being 10 years old, knowing that you're gay, not understanding that feeling, keeping that to yourself, like, that's powerful to, like, that's probably why we connected so much with the story because, like, we were Big Bird at one point. We were trying to find community, and the community that we were in, we never felt supported, so we were trying to run away to a community.
do you
So
want to hear something
yeah,
I just found?
yeah,
Well, full transparency, I used ChatGPT to sort of pull up some facts. I just needed some quick fact finding.
of it.
Uh, but the part that we're talking about of the movie where they painted him blue,
Yeah,
this is this is what it came up with. It says that it was called the Bluebird of Happiness. And so when Big Bird is forced into a circus act, he is painted blue and renamed the Bluebird of Happiness, a moment that many fans found particularly sad. I think the irony there of like trying to do what you think would make somebody else happy
yeah,
instead of truly listening and letting that in and saying I can accept that and help you in the ways to make you happy instead of forcing what I think would make me actually instead of making it happy, what it's actually doing is it's making you comfortable, right?
correct.
Some yeah.
Yeah, and then I love that. But I remember, like, not being happy. He was singing sad songs, but yeah, that makes sense. I think they wanted him to be the happy bird.
Yeah.
But then we think about all of, like, I remember, like, I think it was Bert and Ernie on an airplane trying to find him. Some people were in a car, like, driving. Like, it was all these different characters leaving Sesame Street to go find Big Bird. And then the more I thought about it too, I was like, those are allies. Right? They're saying that you are a part of our community. You need to come back. We love you and we accept you. And I was just like, I don't know why. It just makes sense for today, right?
Were they all allies then? I don't know. I think Bert and Ernie were a little gay.
Well, okay, fair. Some of them aren't allies, some of them are in the community. Fair. Uh,
Here's looking at you, Bert and Ernie, you bunch of
yeah.
weird.
I love a good gay puppet.
I love a good gay puppet.
But it was so interesting because there was a mix of puppets and adults too. So when I think about allies, I also think about the adults who, were actually married and straight. There was no gay characters back in the day for Sesame Street on
Well,
the
do you know that the people like some of the actors that were in there, especially the cameo, you had Chevy Chase in there, Sandra Bernhardt,
yeah.
Candy. I mean, it wasn't like a small film for sure. It had some heavy hitters in there.
It did. So I don't know, I just like that movie just it struck me because it has such positive memories for me as a kid, and then the more I dove into it, it started to unlock these interesting feelings of like, "Oh, wow." Like, that
Dude,
movie was ahead of its time, right?
Kenzie and Ollie watch Sesame Street today. I mean, I know there's so much on YouTube, but are they familiar with it at least?
They're definitely familiar with it.
Yeah.
They Ollie has some, like, Elmo and dolls and stuff too. I mean,
Elmo's a big one. Yeah, you're right.
it's a big one. So
The
I
reason why I
they
bring
made
that up the reason why I ask is because, like, while this movie was made in 1985, we're still using these same characters to teach lessons of community and advocacy, allyship, friendship, love, acceptance, all of the words. But I think it's so ironic that, or not even ironic, I think it's beautiful. I think it's
Are we
beautiful.
though?
What?
Because well, PBS just dropped their DEI efforts because of what's happening in the administration. So does that
Well, I think that that is a reflection of PBS. I think that's a reflection of them trying to maintain their funding, and it's a
correct,
reflection.
but how does that affect their storylines on Sesame Street moving forward?
Yeah, of course, but, like, what would happen if Sesame Street went away completely? I think that, like, the writers are smart
Yeah,
enough to figure out ways to put it in. I don't know if you saw this recently, and, like, the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because there are ways for art and writing and production and media and things like that to sort of undermine, some of the things that they're doing. Like, for example, at I think it was at one of the dinners that was recently held in the White House,
mhm,
one of the one of the singing groups, I don't know any of this stuff, but one of the groups came in to sing. President Trump and all of his little people were there, and they sang a song from Les Mis that was basically about, fuck the anarchy, you know what I mean? Like, and
yeah,
so, like, and I don't think anybody was even privy to it, right? They're also, if they were, they couldn't prove it. So I think that Sesame Street, in light of all that, like, could potentially find creative ways to include that. I'm not so worried about that. I wanted to more focus and hone in on, like, these characters, like, sort of standing true in their integrity and, like, standing up for the things that they believe in. And in 1985, for Sesame Street to be telling those stories, regardless of, like, which communities they were thinking about, I think back then it might have had to even do with racism to some
yeah,
degree.
yep,
Uh,
yep,
um, but that, like, we still have these, like, platforms and these characters, and we know, like, screw this administration, end to end, screw this administration. Just for the way that they look at people, not for anything else than the way that they look at people and the people that I feel they are. They're abhorrent, but that's neither here nor there. We're following that bird. We're talking about belonging, but, in this, I think they're connected because in a world where I think everybody belongs, it feels like what's happening in our country is people are, like, telling people who belong and who don't.
mhm, yeah. So I follow that bird.
Follow that bird. Hey, y'all should check it out. Great
You
film.
should.
Brian and I have a slew of awful films that you can watch.
Yes, but
Stay
this one may
tuned.
not be one.
No, 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 it's good. And, I think a lot of our audience too probably now has children, so this is, like, a really good one for the whole family where you can be a little nostalgic and also show your kids a film that they can relate to, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna show the kids the movie. I haven't really thought about that, but, and it also
It's
gives me
actually good.
an excuse to watch it again.
Well, I mean, and it gives us an excuse to go find that link that we promised to share with everybody. Brian, thank you for bringing this up. What a fun journey down memory lane. I'll
Yeah,
follow wherever I will follow you. But just don't turn into a bird.
no promises. Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.